Hello and welcome to the Eagle Eye Focus Sports Talk podcast with me, your host, Louis Debe, and today we are recapping the Eagles' Week 4 preseason finale versus the New York Jets, and we're going to be talking about some of the latest cuts that have happened as the Eagles are officially going through the final 53-man roster breakdown. So you can check out my article about the latest roster cuts at eaglesportstalk.blogspot.com, and a lot of news for the Eagles, obviously, with the cuts. I'm gonna give you a list before we get into the Jets versus the Eagles game, which the final score was 20-27 in favor of the Jets. A good game, I thought, for the Eagles' offense actually struggled a lot. Nick Foles only completed 6 passes of 17. He had a really bad game, but I liked what I saw from Matthew Tucker, who got in the end zone for 2 touchdowns. He still has not been cut. Wondering if they're going to keep 4 running backs on the roster with guys like Chris Polk and Bryce Brown backing up LeSean McCoy. So for him, it was interesting to see what happened. But also for the receivers, Jeff Mayhill, who the Eagles got over from the Houston Texans as they traded for the former Oregon receiver that was with Chip Kelly during the national championship year that they went to the title. He finished with 8 receptions for 61 yards and really looked pretty impressive. As well as Ifeanyi Moma finally got some receptions. He had 3 receptions for 42 yards, but it was not enough as he was cut today. So here's the list of players that were cut today. Wide receiver Will Murphy was cut. I think it's in a deep position, so he wasn't making it. Quarterback G.J. Kinney. The Eagles had 5 quarterbacks throughout the entire offseason, and he looked pretty good at times, but again, did not compete with the other guys. Center Dallas Reynolds was beat out by friend of the podcast, Julian Vandervelde, who had a great preseason. If you want to go check out my interview with Julian, go back to the podcast page on Eagle Eye Focus. Also, linebacker Adrian Robinson was cut after the Eagles traded Felix Jones for him. That was probably just cleaning up running back space more than really going after the player, Adrian himself. Cornerback Trevard Lindley was waived because he's injured. So if he's not picked up, he will probably. To me, I don't know. He's been just a training camp body for the Eagles since he was He hasn't made the 53-man roster since 2010. Quarterback Dennis Dixon, one of my favorite players, a guy that I thought fitted the Eagles' starting quarterback job very well. Did not get any chances at all with the first team. Was basically, or second team, or even third team, as a matter. He got 1 rep with the third team. Once Barkley was drafted, there was really no way of Dixon making the team. Disappointing for me. And obviously Dennis Dixon, but I'm sure he's going to find another home as the read option is becoming one of the big NFL now, and Dixon can run it very well. He's shown that in the past. Defensive tackle Antonio Dixon was cut. They like what they have with the young defensive lineman and Benny Logan, and at nose tackle as well as Isaac Sopoaga. Defensive tackle David King, 7th round draft pick out of Oklahoma, was cut, but he is practice squad eligible. They'll be hoping to move him there. He showed some good things, but again, he just wasn't consistent enough to keep up, as this defensive line is one of the deepest on the Eagles team, with Clifton Geathers and Damian Square and Fletcher Cox and Cedric Thornton as the obvious guys. So he was cut, as well as wide receiver Ifeanyi Moma, who just could not stay consistent enough and just isn't ready to me for NFL action. Then Matt Tennant was cut, as well as defensive lineman Everett Brown, who had 2 sacks yesterday and has actually looked pretty good so far in the preseason, but was nowhere to be found during training camp. And then defensive lineman Joe Kruger was moved to IR with his shoulder. I don't really know if that's really an injury, more of them just trying to stash him away, as he's very raw, but a great talent that they do not want to lose. He can get bigger in the offseason, bigger during the season, and hopefully get him going for next season. So those are the cuts so far as of right now that I'm today, Friday, August 30th of 2013. The season is next week. Eagles take on the Washington Redskins in the season opener, Monday Night Football. Oh man, I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. If they can start off 1-0 against the Washington Redskins in a big divisional matchup, it's going to do wonders for this team. And I definitely think, because then with week 2 with the Chargers, I think that could be another win. This team could start off 2-0 in my opinion. I think this team really has a chance to compete this year in the NFC East, and I can't wait. For more for the preview of the Eagles, you can go to youtube.com/NFL Experts for my schedule rundown edition of the season predictions. I go win by week for the Eagles. I'll post that on the blog. as NFL Experts, which I host with my partner Dave Kress, is also part of the All 32 Access website, as well as this blog and podcast. So with the Eagles, with that, those are the cuts for today. Not a lot of surprises. I think for the fifth receiver spot, it's really coming down to Russell Shepard, Greg Sales, and Jeff Mayhill. And I think a lot of people would say, as of right now, it's looking like Russell Shepard. People are saying Russell Shepard, but I mean, I think Greg Sales had another good game. I thought he's been consistent, but what can he really do for you with that fifth spot? You kind of want some versatility there on special teams and maybe more of a dynamic player, which is why they might keep Jeff Mayhill there, maybe for returning duties. Also, if they run 5 receiver sets, I think he's a speedster guy that could really fit in the system, and hence why he's now an Eagle. And then Russell Shepard, who's shown speed and has played very well in special teams. If I were to predict it right now, I still think it'd be Russell Shepard, but I think Mayhill is definitely in the running as well as Sales. It really depends on what they think. And maybe if they keep 6, maybe they keep 2 of them. Maybe they keep Mayhill and Shepard and let Sales go, or other way around, or vice versa. So you never know with that. So let's get the final score again: 27 in favor of the New York Jets. The Eagles, both sides of the football, but again, Matt Barkley though looked up. I don't know. He had a bad completion percentage with 13 out of 27 for 134 yards, and then a bad pick 6 in the end. He just doesn't look ready to. I don't think he was in this starting quarterback battle at all. And personally, in my opinion, I think you got to do what's best for the team, and who do you think is going to give them the best chance to win? And I think that's Michael Vick. And yeah, he's had some faults in the past couple of years, but I think this is the year he turns it around and gets this Eagles team back to where they were in 2010. Man, that was a fun year for me, of course, and all Eagles fans. I mean, every day you just wake up and knowing that your team's in it. That's why I can't wait for the season to start, and hopefully Chip Kelly can bring some new stuff to this Philadelphia Eagles team that is very promising. Chris Polk finished 7 attempts for 27 yards. Bryce Brown 9 attempts for 29. Don't want to get them too much work with the meaningless game. Also, Bryce Brown had 2 receptions for 29 yards, so though showing his versatility in the receiving game. And then Greg Sales had 2 receptions for 26 yards. Clay Harbor had 1 for 17. He's, I'm sure, a nervous wreck right now. To me, like he said, it's a 50-50 chance that he makes the roster, depending on how many tight ends the Eagles keep. And if they want to go versatile-wise, Emil Iguanagu, who can play both tight end and fullback, I saw some good things from him, but I don't think he's going to make the roster. Defensively, I saw some good things. I love Emmanuel Acho, and I've been saying it all offseason. You can go check out all my podcasts that I've been saying Acho should make this roster and is a better upgrade than Jamar Chaney, who is now not on the roster, and showed some great things in the offseason and plus now in the preseason, where he finished with 11 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. I think that right there is a lot. He's locked on the roster. And then you have to think about how many you're going to keep, because to me, you have D'Amico Ryans, Kendricks, Acho, and Casey Matthews. Those are 4 guys right there. If you want to keep a 5th inside linebacker, they're definitely keeping Jake Knott, who had 8 tackles, second on the team yesterday, and a forced fumble of his own. He looked great as well. Really, they're going to have some tough decisions if they want to keep all of those guys. And at the same time, you got to keep a lot of outside linebackers. Look what Chris McCoy did, and he brings some depth at the outside linebacker position, because if Graham and Trent Cole don't work out, you really need another guy with Connor Barwin. Chris McCoy had 3 tackles, but 2 sacks and a forced fumble of his own. So again, a lot of great play from the young linebackers. Chris McCoy, even though he's not really all that young, but he's experienced with the position, and I think you got to keep that type of depth on the team. I think he's a lock to make the roster. I think if any of those guys are getting cut, it's Jake Knott, in my opinion. With Acho, we got over from Cleveland after we traded for Dion Lewis, who's now on IR. So it looks like the Eagles have the better of that trade so far, in my opinion. Jordan Poyer looked very good, I thought, as well. In the secondary, he had 3 tackles and a forced fumble of his own. He showed some aggressiveness that I think that this Eagles secondary could use, and he's definitely making the roster. I mean, that's no doubt. I mean, look at the injuries. Brandon Hughes and Curtis Marsh together, both ones might not be on the field till, week 6 or 7. So you need depth, and right now you have Kerry Williams. You have your top 3 in Boykin, Fletcher, and Kerry Williams, and then you have, to me, then there's Poyer, And then Eddie Whitley's also injured, and so is Trevard Lindley. So it's like, well, how many are you going to keep with all these injuries? I mean, how many of those guys do you think have the ability to make the roster? I don't know personally, but I think that Poirier's going to have a big role in this team this year, so hopefully he can be ready. Earl Wolf and Nate Allen are battling for that starting safety job next to Patrick Chung. Earl Wolf had 3 tackles on the night, and Nate Allen had 1, but it's looking like Nate Allen's going to win the job. And it just looks like Earl Wolf is a little bit farther back. But he's a rookie, and he's going to get a lot of playing time this year. They're probably going to run a rotation me there as well, because I think you could see some Colt Anderson action there as well. Because Colt Anderson has also looked pretty good. He had a fumble recovery and also 2 tackles on the night, so he looked pretty good. Brandon Graham did have a sack showing his pass rushing ability. He got it for a safety. So I mean, everyone knows he can pass rush. That's not the problem. It's just if he can adjust to this new scheme in pass coverage. He looked pretty bad the first 2 games. No, I'm not gonna say the second game because against the Panthers he looked pretty good. But the first game, he really struggled. I think. So Eagles finish off 2-2 in the preseason, but that doesn't matter because they went up 4-0 last year, and we all know what happened last year. I'm not going to get back into those bad days. For the Jets, I mean, their offense looked really good. Matt Sims started the whole game with 33 of 44, 285 yards, no touchdowns, but no interceptions. I mean, it's the 4th game. I mean, it doesn't really not much to put into it. But former Eagle Jaquan Jarrett had 6 tackles for the Jets. Just could never really get it going in Philadelphia. David Sims for the Eagles did have 4 tackles on the night. He's looking to hopefully get that 5th spot in the safety job if there is, as well as Kurt Coleman who had 8 tackles on the night. And he showed some versatility. He needed to do everything he could last night in order to make this roster. Also playing some cornerback as the Eagles are, so thin at the position right now. So they might need to keep Kurt Coleman for that, but it depends on how many safeties they keep. I think they're keeping 4, which does not let either David Sims or Kurt Coleman make the roster. So with that, not really much else for that game. Eagles had a safety, not much really. Matthew Tucker was probably, to me, the MVP of the game. Offensively, with those 2 touchdowns showing some red zone ability. I think Chip Kelly's going to have to really take a look at him again. Maybe see if they can slip him on the practice squad, but he's had a very strong preseason. A very quiet, strong preseason as well. And also for statistic-wise, David King had 3 tackles before being cut today. I think I actually really like David King. Something about him. I liked his size and his strength, and I think I hope he can slip on. I hope we can hang on to him for next season. See maybe what we got. Because I don't know how much. I mean, Damian Square looks really good, but I don't know how much you're gonna be able to rely on him. I don't know how consistent he's gonna be this season. Depth-wise, they're gonna be running a rotation with, as well as Clifton Geathers, Cedric Thornton, and Benny Logan, and obviously Fletcher Cox to me is a starter on the one side, and then you have a rotation on the other. So I thought David King might have been able to fit in, but he couldn't beat out Square or Clifton Geathers. But that's all right. He was a 7th-round pick. I mean, so I think we got to slip him on the practice squad. I think he'll be a very good player for the Eagles very soon. I think, just in my opinion. But going back to Dennis Dixon, I'm going to talk about him for a little bit. I'll just talk about that since there's really not much else about with the Week 4 game. I mean, really, when your coach says that you have a chance to start, you should be able to give at least some opportunity. Dixon came in here thinking it was every man for himself. This was a job he could win. He's experienced with a head coach, and yet he doesn't get on the field at all. He looked pretty good, I thought, against the Patriots, running the no-huddle offense. The Panthers, he only threw 3 passes, but completed all 3. Ran the read option very nicely. He was averaging 9 yards per rush. As well as G.J. Kenny played pretty well as well, but when you draft Matt Barkley, there's no way really he can make the roster unless Vic or Foles got traded, which wasn't going to happen from how well they both played in the 2 games of the preseason, as well as Foles in the second one. Third one, Vic played all right against the Jaguars. So really with Dixon, what it is I mean, he still has 1 more year of practice squad eligibility, which you could really use that another guy like him in the film room for an experience to help out the other quarterbacks. He's experienced with Chip Kelly. But I don't think there's any way of that happening with how well the read option is. Teams need backup quarterbacks, and especially a guy with that type of skill. I think a team like, I couldn't name it off the top of my head, but the Rams need a backup quarterback. I don't think Kellen Clemens is the answer there. The Cardinals have Drew Stanton. Going through each division trying to think. The Bears have Josh McCown, but even there, they are running some read option. They might want to pick up Dixon. I think with the Packers picking up Vince Young, there goes that opportunity. The Vikings have Matt Castle and Ponder, so not really there. I don't really think there's that many spots. I think it might be a good chance that we could hang on to them. And then as well, maybe Oakland. If Tyler Wilson gets cut, they actually might pick up Dennis Dixon to help out Terrell Pryor if he ends up starting, as well as Matt Flynn there. Maybe he could go there. I think he would actually fit in very nicely there, and actually maybe get some playing time, in my opinion. The Bengals have already a guy like Dixon and Josh Johnson, as well as the Ravens with Tyrod Taylor. The Steelers aren't going to go back down that road. They have a young guy they like in Landry Jones, as well as Bruce Gradkowski, who they got in free agency this year, who played in Cincinnati last season. The Bills could really use a quarterback. I think actually that's probably the one spot that Dennis Dixon might go. Even though they traded for Thaddeus Lewis, Matt Leinart was cut. Jeff Toole's probably going to start, but I don't think once Manuel comes back, I think maybe they pick up Dixon and let Thaddeus Lewis go, even though Thaddeus Lewis looked pretty good in the game. I was actually at the game yesterday reporting for the NFL experts. I was reporting at the Lions-Bills game yesterday, and I thought I saw some good things, and I think Dixon would fit very well in Buffalo, but even there, I'm just trying to think of some spots that Dennis Dixon could fit in well, and I don't want him to go to New York Jets, just because I don't want him to go through that. But Dixon's a very good player, I think, and I think he's still young. He's got to get to another team, though, that can really utilize his abilities, and I thought the Eagles were that team. Really, if he couldn't win a starting job in this type of situation, which is really the only, to me, the biggest shot he'll ever get, I don't think it's looking good for him starting-wise, but I think he's a very good backup quarterback in this league that could also come in for some packages. So, with that, again, final score 27-20 in favor of the Jets over the Eagles. 10 roster cuts today. More to come. They need to get down to 53 by 6 p.m. tomorrow. We'll see who else gets cut. There's gonna be a lot of still a lot of big names still gonna get cut. So that's gonna do it for today's Eagle Eye Focus Sports Talk podcast recap of the Week 4 Jets game, and also roster cuts breakdown. We'll analysis. There we go. I got it down. So thanks for joining me. Follow me on Twitter at DB Sports Talk for all your Eagles updates. Check out the blog with all the latest Eagles articles at eaglesportstalk.blogspot.com. Also check out our new website, all32access.weebly.com. We currently have 7 teams up and running with their blogs. Are the Bills, obviously the Eagles with me, the Carolina Panthers, the New York Jets, and the Arizona Cardinals, as well as the Green Bay Packers. So if you would like to be part of that team and write for your favorite team, DM me on Twitter at DB Sports Talk, or email us at all32access@yahoo.com, or Louis DiBiase at yahoo.com if you want to do that. We got the latest news on the NFL all around. Also, go check out the NFL Experts podcast at youtube.com/NFL Experts. We have all the latest NFL updates. And again, be sure, I'm going to give you the schedule for the Eagle Eye Focus podcast for this season. I'll be having a recap every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, and that'll be live on blogtalkradio.com, as well as a preview on Friday night at 8 o'clock every week. We'll be doing that, and as well as additional articles throughout the week with all the latest news. I'll be doing at least 2 podcasts a week, maybe 3. Depends on what's going on with the season. So that's the season schedule, but again, I will be having consistent podcasts as well as articles for you guys. So thanks for joining me again, and have your guys selves a great week, and football's coming. Just try to stall as much time. That's what I'm doing. So we'll see you guys later.